All right, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Boot Camp Sports Show. I'm here, your host, Bootz. You can email me at bootsports@yahoo.com, especially if you have any conflicting or any arguments or comments, anything you'd like to bring up on the show, any rebuttals. You can email me once again at bootsports@yahoo.com. Hit me up on Twitter, Jerry_Holman. Let's talk a little bit about this Cowboys-Eagle matchup last night. Cowboys win 38-33. Now improve their record to 6-6 over the lowly Eagles, who fall to 3-9. Obviously, we talked about a lot in the last show. Eagles are going through crisis mode, panic mode. Cowboys are trying to use this game and try to catapult themselves into the playoff race and become a team that, or become the team that we think that they can become. I know it wasn't pretty. Matter of fact, it was downright ugly. But all in all, it's a W. And that's what's important. And I'm sure most of you guys out there played sports, no matter what kind of sport it was. At the end of the day, you look at the W. That's what goes in the ledger. It doesn't necessarily have to be pretty. And I'm never going to apologize for a W. Never have, never will. But before we talk about how cosmetically appealing this game was to the eye, or how it was or wasn't cosmetically appealing, let me first preface by saying that yesterday you saw a division game against the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Ravens. And the Pittsburgh Steelers actually beat the Ravens with a third-string quarterback named Charlie Batch. So, a lot of you guys remember him from his old Michigan days. So when we talk about division matchups, these division matchups are tough games. And that's obviously evidenced in the game that we just talked about with the Ravens and the Steelers. So this is why I say, guys, although we all expected, including myself, we expected a blowout, these division games are tough to win. And you know what? The Ravens found that out, losing to a third-string quarterback this week. So that's one of the reasons I'm not going to apologize about the way this game looked. So this team proved to you, and more importantly, Tony Romo, we desperately needed the running game. And the running game was in full effect because DeMarco Murray came to the rescue for his team. Now, you can look at him, especially if you're a fan, you're an avid watcher like myself. He wasn't the same back. He had a little bit of his burst gone. You could tell he was probably about 75%. But let me tell you something. At 75%, that's a good back. He's a good back, and we needed that. And he ran enough on the Eagles to give Tony Romo the run game that he needed. And you know what? It was enough to beat a pretty bad Eagle team, who probably, I believe, is the worst team in football right now. Now, the Cowboys didn't look much better than the Eagles for most of the game, to be honest with you. I would say most of the first half. The Cowboys looked like they weren't better than the Eagles. And I'd never had any doubt that we would win the game. I'm sure most real fans watched that game and never felt that we were going to lose it. They knew we'd be back in it. Tony Romo, as I say, I'm wearing his number 9 jersey today, his playoff jersey. We never worry about Tony getting us in position to win these games, you know. So Tony did exactly what he always does. Brought us back in the game. And we actually swept the Birds because of the fantastic play, once again, of Tony Romo. And speaking of Romo, I mentioned the running game arrived and how good Romo looked. And I know there's a lot of Romo haters and a lot of Cowboy haters, but a lot of Romo haters. But this game should show you how much a running game means to a quarterback's career. And for all you guys that don't think that a running game means much to a quarterback, take a look at Phillip Rivers, who he was when he had LaDainian Tomlinson. Phillip Rivers, especially you fantasy football guys, he was the best quarterback, one of the elite quarterbacks in football. I mean, passing records, breaking records, some of Dan Fouts' records, all these things. And he had all these quarterback accolades. I know he didn't have a championship, but he won a lot of games, played in some big games, and threw for a lot of yards. What has he been since LaDainian left? Since he has now yet to find a replacement back for LT. Now he's a run-of-the-mill quarterback. It's the biggest proof of evidence that you could find as to how important a running back is to the quarterback. Ask Dan Marino, who's probably still looking for that guy to help. Dan Marino needed that running back to win a championship, and he never got it. He never got the running back. Never got him. Ask John Elway. I remember I was a young kid in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, watching John Elway play. And John Elway, it was evidenced, he was Tony Romo before Tony Romo. It was evidence that he would never win a championship, and most people felt that. Commentators said that. All the football purists out there, all the stat crunchers, they all said that he could never win a championship. It wasn't in his fabric. But guess what happened? Terrell Davis came along. Once Terrell Davis came along, 2,000-yard running back, once he arrived, all of a sudden John Elway was able to win championships. All right? So that's how important it is for a running back. We saw a small sample of that in this Eagle-Cowboy game. But that's how important it is. And I keep telling you guys to enjoy Romo, because you trying to search for the next Troy Aikman or Roger Staubach. They may be 30 years away from now, 20 years away. How many fans, look at these Eagle fans, they've never seen a championship. How many Eagle fans have died, lived out their lives, their full lives, waiting for a championship to never happen? You're not guaranteed to win a championship, or you're not guaranteed to go to the Super Bowl just because you have a star on your helmet, or because you put a New York Giants symbol on your helmet. Nothing's guaranteed. You take these championships, you take these wins, you take these good games, and you embrace them, and you embed them into your sports mind, and you keep them in there, because you're not guaranteed to have another good season or another good quarterback. So, we know Tony Romo's going to probably shatter 20 or 30 Dallas Cowboy records. I shouldn't even say 20 or 30. He's going to shatter more than that. Be the all-time leading Cowboy quarterback in the history. We all know that. He's done what Aikman did in 12 years or so. He's done in 6. So I know we still minus the championships. And Romo's not at the age where he can't win a championship. He still needs a couple pieces. But he still is a very, very good quarterback. He's completed 10 for 10. In the second half or the fourth quarter last night? That guy, like I said, I embrace good athletes. I love good athletes, and I don't care if they're on other teams. I like good football players. I like good basketball players. I like good sports athletes, and I always give due. I'm not a whiner, a baby Romo runner. I'm not one of these guys that complain when things go bad. I don't forget about the good. Romo's still a very, very high-level quarterback, and most GMs, most coaches, and most players that play opposite of Tony Romo will tell you that. Your fans, maybe you don't have a high-def TV, maybe you don't have a good cable provider, I don't know what the situation is, but if you watch it and you use your eyes to do it, you'll see that Tony Romo is elite, he's an efficient quarterback, and yes, you can win with him. And I'm not saying that this Eagle game is the game that's supposed to showcase who Tony Romo is and where this team's going to go. I know the Eagles are bad, but you know what? Tony still went out and did it. So, that being said, talk about some other positive things in this game. Dez was phenomenal. They couldn't cover Dez. Dez was all over the field, and he was smart. it looked like this was probably the first game that I saw where it looked like Dez was precise. He was where he was supposed to be. Now, Tony threw great balls to him. I mean, great balls. Dez was where he was supposed to be, and he sucked every ball in, and his effort got him those touchdowns. His effort. It was that effort, that drive. And the kid wants to win. I know he doesn't have the greatest upbringing, and I wish somebody would grab the kid and talk to him about and I know I'm being a little bit crazy with it. I wish somebody would talk to him about his grammar and speaking in public and work on little etiquette, just things to, make him, PR moves that would make him look a little bit and speak a little bit clearly and a little bit better, because the perception, when you listen to him talk, man, the perception is that all your wheels start turning is what this guy did last night during the game. Was he home on time? Was he out partying last night? But I just wish they'd work a little bit on his speaking and talking in public. I think that would help him a little bit better. But like I said, the player on the field, nobody on the, listen, I listen to Eagle fans and I listen to Eagle radio here in North Jersey every single day. These guys, Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie was supposed to be a great addition. Nnamdi Asomugha was supposed to be a great addition to the Eagles. And I don't care how bad the rest of the team. Cornerbacks are cornerbacks. If you're good, you're good. These guys couldn't cover Dez for nothing, no matter how they lined up. If they pressed him, if they lined off, they just couldn't cover him. They couldn't tackle him. They couldn't cover him. So, good thing for Dez. Another guy who was good last night was Tyron Smith. I think he's coming back, getting healthy, and it showed. He did a real good job on Trent Cole, who's a veteran pass rusher for the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think he did a real good job on Trent. Trent's usually always in the backfield, just a terror, and he held him at bay, and I think he did a really good job. Tyron's looked like he's starting to get back into playing shape and starting to, because he missed a little bit of time with his injury, so it looks like he'll be okay. Halftime adjustments. If I have to give this coaching staff for the Dallas Cowboys any credit on anything, or it would have to be their halftime adjustments. They adjust. They throw away the game plan in the first half. I literally envision them getting into the locker room and ripping up the paperwork, the clipboard, throwing it in the garbage, and saying, okay, guys, we got everything we needed to see. Now here's what we're going to do. They are a great, if it was basketball, they'd be called a half-court defense. Or a half-court, a great half-court team. This team is awesome in the second half. The first half, they just give to the other team. But once you get to that second half, that's when all of a sudden that press is coming, that half-court press. Or they just play so well in the second half. And the coaching staff seems to make adjustments to get guys open. And obviously Romo's, numbers were evident of that. So, got to give the coaching staff credit for that, especially offensively. Morris Claiborne, I know you guys who watched this game last week. The first Eagle game. Morris Claiborne was abused by Riley Cooper, wide receiver out of Florida. And Riley Cooper just destroyed Morris Claiborne. And Morris Claiborne, and this was such a pivotal thing for a rookie cornerback to do. He grabbed the team and said, guys, I promise you, I will never play like that again. I can't play like that, and we can't win if I play like that. And I promise you, I will never be that bad again. I promise you. It's my fault, and I promise you. And usually rookies don't do that. They don't say that. They don't. It's not that they don't own it, but they usually don't have the vocal ability with a veteran team to think that they were even noticed, or they just don't have that. He did that, and that's a big step. And I'll tell you what, he made through on his promise. He came through. He manned up. He went out there, and yeah, there was a couple balls completed on him, but he went out there, and Riley Cooper was not that mismatch or that imposing figure that he was in the first Eagle game. So I got to give Morris Claiborne credit for at least coming through, and also he made the big play, scooping up the fumble, and taking it back to the house and scoring a defensive touchdown, which was a big play in the game, by the way. Now we're going to talk about some things that weren't so good. And I know all you Cowboy fans. I hear you all. I'm on the message boards with you guys. You guys know. I've been a part of the Dallas Cowboy community since the internet started to become big, as far as being a part, touching base with guys, having debates and stuff like that. I know what you guys are saying, and I agree. Doug Free is basically, I mean, he's got to be one of the worst offensive players on the line that I've seen this year and in the last few years. Now, Doug Free hasn't had a really good 2 years. Like, his last 2 years haven't been great. So they got enough film work on Doug Free, and I'm talking about the Cowboys organization. They're going to have to make a move or do something about Doug Free playing right tackle for the Cowboys, because Tony Romo is going to get killed because this guy is a liability now. You know, so they can act like, and listen, the staff decided to let Free play one-on-one coverage, you know, outside with no tight end help. They didn't shade anything to help him. They believed in him. Now, he played a little better in the second half, but listen, Tony Romo was going to get killed out there, man. I'll bet you he's sore. I bet you he's in an ice tub right now. He took some shots, and a couple times they was trying to help him up, and he didn't want to get up. He wanted to stay down there. So that's got to get corrected, and I don't think it could be corrected from the personnel, because you got a guy like Jeremy Parnell, who's an athlete, tackle, played very solid at left. I'd need to see him at right before I could make a move like that. But I don't know how you get better during the season there. So that's something that this staff is going to have to uniquely think of a way to upgrade that right tackle position. Some more bad. Kevin Ogletree, man. What? I've seen enough of him. Now, look, I'm not paying him. So I can't just cut him, because it's easy. The two things it's easy for us fans to do is fire people and cut people. But we don't pay their salaries. So I've seen enough of Kevin Ogletree. I've seen enough. So it's not the fumble. It's not the fumble on the exchange handoff on that little raggedy end around, which was a poor play call, by the way, at that juncture of the game. It's not that they fumbled the exchange. I mean, Tony put the ball in the pocket. Ogletree just doesn't have a sense. And if you look at these plays like these, he's not going to ever catch the ball when it's contested. Whenever there's a safety coming down over him, he's never going to catch it. That's why I don't understand why these guys are pass interfering him, these safeties and these corners, because he's not going to catch it if there's congestion around it. He's worried about the hit. He's got to go. Let me see some more Dwayne Harris and Cole Beasley. These guys are weapons. Dwayne Harris is a very, very good blocker. The best blocking wide receiver on the team. Maybe the best blocker on the team, period. But a very good blocker. And he's an awesome, reliable, sure-handed. He's so strong. When he catches that ball, he tucks it away. I need to see more of him. Stop force-feeding me Ogletree. And I love Beasley. Beasley gets the ball in open space, and he's so slippery. I love Cole Beasley, man. And I know these guys are diminutive guys as far as the size that you might get with some of the other wide receivers. But I like them because when the ball's near them, they catch the ball and they make plays. So let's get them involved. Let's stop this Ogletree stuff. Limit his touches and get these other guys in the game. Now, the really awful was our defense. What is... I mean, listen. I know we lost a lot of defensive players and some very good ones. We lost Barry Church. We lost Sean Lee. We lost Bruce Carter. Jay Ratliff didn't play inside. I know we lost Kenyon Coleman, who's a very good run defender. Like, I understand it. We lost some guys. But with Ernie Sims and Dan Connor manning the inside, they made Bryce Brown. I mean, he looked like Jim Brown. And it's just, you can tell, listen, Sean Lee Samore, the guys who played the worst up front were Lee Samore, Our two inside backers in Ernie Sims and Dan Connor, they were awful. DeMarcus Ware, not his best game. Was he disruptive? You know, little disruptive. It's not his best game. I don't know what his problem is, man. He's out there with some journeyman left tackles. I mean, guys that just aren't good. And he struggles against guys like that. He's at his best when he has to go against a top-notch left tackle. That's when DeMarcus Ware is at his best. So, Marcus Spears, Danny McCray. I mean, how late is Danny McCray getting over? When they run that little tight, when the Eagles ran that tight end release where they release Selleck or they release somebody into that cover 2 portion, like the lower end of that, in between the linebackers, like right outside the linebacker, like on a straight seam route, in the seam is what I'm trying to say. How long was it going to take Danny McCray to recognize that the tight end is releasing and he's sitting down? I mean, he just never got there. Ever. So, his play recognition is probably what keeps Danny McCray as an awesome special teamer and not a great safety or not a good safety. Because you have to be able to recognize plays in this crafty NFL. You have to be able to recognize what they're trying to do to you, how they're trying to get you to bite this way, and you still got to play this way. But his play recognition is poor. Marcus Spears is probably, this has got to be his last year in Dallas. Guaranteed. No question. He's not a good player. There's a reason why you're a healthy scratch during the year. And I love Spears. I was at the draft when they drafted him and DeMarcus Ware in the first round. I was there. I was happy with the pick. Bill Parcells loved Spears. He loved Spears more than he loved Ware. He wanted Ware at that pick. The top pick that he took DeMarcus Ware. He wanted Spears there. Jerry Jones stepped in and said, "No, we're taking Ware. You guys want to flame Jerry Jones every freaking day? You better thank God we didn't do that. We'd be sitting here with Erasmus James with that pick that we took Spears at. We'd have had Spears and then Erasmus James as our outside rusher. So think about that. Now, I will say, Spears has got to go. I mean, he's not a good player anymore, man. He's not a good player. Let a desperate 3-4 team that needs a body like that, let him play there. He can't help us here. So, these guys like Crawford, these young guys, Kyle Wilbur, we'll be seeing them over the next few weeks. So, I wanted to bring the defense up because they let Nick Foles have so much time back there in that pocket. He had all day. And I will say this about Nick Foles. He looked pretty good. If the Eagles can say one thing about themselves, I'm not going to say that their quarterback has arrived, they got a good quarter. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they can go into next year. You Eagle fans can go into next year and start Nick Foles. And yeah, you might win 5 or 6 games next year, but you'll get a chance to see if this guy can develop into a decent quarterback. And I mean, there's not going to be one in free agency that's going to, make you jump up and down about, and there sure won't be one in the draft. Although I like Matt Barkley, I'm not sure I like him now if he's going to be in a, freaking arm sling at the combine. I don't know. So I don't know what you get with that. But like I said, this kid looks like he can play in the National Football League and that he should be earning money. So, but he had so much time to make throws. So much time. So, in closing, I'm going to say this. The Cowboys are 1 game out of the wild card right now. You might want to call it 2. Because for that 6th seed, Seattle does own the tiebreaker. They have an extra win over us. That Chicago-Seattle game, I was so disappointed because Chicago should have won that game and that would have put us in the 6th spot of the wild card had they done that. But we got to earn our keep. You know what I mean? So we can't rely on other teams. This is the position that the Cowboys put us in. We can't rely. Now we got to play and do it ourselves. We can't rely on other teams. See, when you're good and you win, you don't have to rely on anybody to do your work for you when you do it yourself, like the New York Giants have been doing in our division. Now we got to rely on, we hope they beat them and they beat them, therefore we can. No, we got to go do it. That starts next week with the Cincinnati Bengals. And let me tell you, I'm worried about the Bengals because they're a balanced football team. They run the ball. We can't stop the run now, guys. Let's face it. And we're not going to. Not with them inside backers we got. They don't play the run well. So that's why Brady Papinga, they hope they can get him on board next week to come in. And that's not saying a lot. I know it's Brady Papinga, but that's the reason they brought him in here, because they know we can't stop the run and we can't play the run. But we're going to have our hands full with that Bengals team, and I'm going to talk more about that in the next show. I'll do a Bengals-Cowboys pregame show. Y'all know that. But keep this in mind, guys. The Bengals, by the way, they did just come off of a victory, 20-13 over the Chargers, and they fought hard. They fought hard for that game, so they deserved that win. They played well, took advantage of turnovers, made plays when it needed to happen. But what I want to say about, keep this in mind, is that Seattle, I know they got that extra game over us right now, but they got both of their corners will be suspended most likely. They appealed this week. And let me say this. Here's my thing about this NFL appeals process. I don't think it's fair that the NFL allows you to appeal the suspension. If you have drugs in your system, performance-enhancing drugs, whatever it is, the appeal process shouldn't let you play and then the next week, because both them corners would have been out against Chicago, but instead they're out there all hied up playing, making plays, slapping balls down when they should be suspended. The rule should be, this is what I believe, and let me know if you think different. Like I said, email me at bootsports@yahoo.com. I think if you lose the appeals, if they want to suspend you for 4 games, and you appeal it, and you lose the appeal process, that 4 games should turn into 6 games. Because 2 things would happen. It would deter you, because you know when you're taking the wrong supplement. Most of these guys know that. It would deter you from appealing, unless you really, really were very firm about something. And then it wouldn't penalize the opposing team that you have to play. Like these teams, they benefited from that. The Seattle Seahawks benefited from these guys doing drugs and playing. And they were drugged up when we played them. And they're making plays and going to Pro Bowls on these performance-enhancing drugs. So if they lose the appeal, they should be suspended for 6 games. Then they would have sat out that Bears game. They would have sat out their 4 games. And then the Bears wouldn't have lost. And then you know what I'm saying? Those are types of things that bother me. If you appeal, you still get to play with the stuff in your system. But I just had to get that off my chest. That was bothering me. But like I said, they still got to play Seattle without their 2 best corners. So we'll take a look and see where we stand. But guys, do not sit back and be bitter today. This is not the time to do that. This is the time to be thankful the Cowboys figured out a way to win at home. And they beat up Eagle team that was trying to salvage whatever little bit of the season they got, and they would have loved to stick it to the Cowboys, and they did not quit against the Cowboys. If you seen the way they played, they fought, they ran, they were disappointed. Them guys held their heads low when they fumbled the ball. Them guys cared, man. Don't get into that, oh, they quit. That team wanted to win. So we beat up on a team that was fighting hard. They just weren't as good as the Cowboys. Once again, I'm your host, Bootz. Definitely tune in. I'll be doing some more NFL stuff later on. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in and listening to me. I'm out of here today. Enjoy the rest of your week. How about them Cowboys?